initiative that is going to create some type of space force. Clayton Anderson, the pride of all Nebraska, is joining us. Former astronaut, retired from League City, Texas. Good morning, Clayton. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, thanks, guys. Go Astros.
Go Big Red. All right, so I thought that there was some type of treaty that all the nations agreed not to militarize space.
Yeah, I don't know about that. I think if that is the case, I'm sure they'll evaluate that when they go off to look at the president's directive and his request. So there's lots more water to flow under the bridge before any of this happens. But I think the fact that we're talking about it and the fact that the administration wants to keep America as the preeminent spacefaring nation, I think that's good.
Okay, well, it's one thing to go explore Mars. It's another thing to try and put a laser on Mars to shoot down incoming aliens.
Well, yeah, I get all that, and I know it's the military connotation, but I think in terms of taking the baby steps first, there are lots of things we can do with his so-called Space Force that aren't necessarily of the militaristic ideas that we think of when we think of the Air Force and the Army and that sort of thing. But whether it's needed or not, I'm not sure I'm in that camp either.
Where are we this is sort of like science fiction. This isn't even a legitimate question because we're nowhere near putting any type of military cargo up in space, are we?
Well, we shot, with the shuttle, we put up a lot of military satellites, communication satellites, I guess I'll call them spy satellites, those sort of things. We did that for years with the space shuttle program, in that we had basically two space shuttle programs. We had the Department of Defense version and the non-Department of Defense version. And that meant many of the people on the ground that worked for NASA had to have top secret and secret clearances versus those that did not. So it's not as if we've never done this before. It's just the newest look, I think.
Yeah. Well, again, a space satellite is different than a space force that he's sort of alluding to, a literal Star Wars in the sky, right? I mean, those are two different things.
Yeah, all of us are inferring a little bit about what the definition of the Space Force might be. But we also have the history of the U.S. military that would point us in a direction that says, well, if we're going to do a Space Force, it might look like this. And I guess I'll have to hold back my judgment until I actually see what they're going to try to do.
Yeah. Clayton Anderson, you spent 167 days in space. What do you remember? What do you take away from that time up in space?
I was Superman every day. I flew to breakfast, and I flew to work. I flew to the bathroom, and I even flew while I was going to the bathroom.
Do you ever get scared of heights? You're so high up, it's like you're not even scared of heights anymore, right?
Well, it's kind of a different kind of height. And the fact that you're in orbit means that you're falling, but you're falling at the same rate of everything else, so you're essentially flying. So I didn't really get that feeling that I was falling down, right? I just got that feeling that I was flying around the Earth, and that's a pretty cool feeling.
Yeah. After 167 days in space, what's the hardest thing to get reacclimated on Earth?
I guess standing and walking. When I came home, I weighed 200 pounds again after having been weightless for 5 months, and so I walked a lot like Tim Conway used to walk in that old Carol Burnett skit he did when he was Mr. Wiggins.
Right, yeah.
Shuffle my feet like an old guy, and then my brain was telling me I was still going around in circles around the Earth, so my fluid inside my head kept turning me to the right, and I'd walk toward the wall all the time. So I had to put my right arm out and brace against the wall and then shuffle my feet like an old man. So I looked pretty silly, I think.
How long did it take you to get reacclimated?
Overall about less than 24 hours.
Oh, okay.
Your body recovers quickly, but if you ask how long it took for me to be able to lift the same amount of weight and run a mile in the same time and all that took about 3 weeks of rehab. So.
Clayton Anderson, NASA astronaut. Clayton, thanks for your time. Good luck.
My pleasure, guys.
You got it. Clayton Anderson, former NASA astronaut.